Want to know what a disaster looks like? Well, just look at this man. He's a complete disaster. And now he is ransacking the Canadian Armed Forces. How? Let's find out. Hi and welcome to TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I'm your host, Tejasvi Malhotra. Let's begin. Trudeau has transferred a large portion of Canada's military assets to Ukraine. The situation is so dire that any more weapon sales to Ukraine will see the Canadian military going severely under-equipped. So basically, in a bid to appease Biden amidst the ongoing Ukraine crisis, Trudeau has made Canada vulnerable.
Hey, it's me, Atul. I started this channel. We started small, we went big. Suddenly, the whitey police was after us. We dodged and ducked, but the algos got us really bad. So we designed our own app. It's free. We never asked for money, we never will. But the droid called us too sensitive and blocked us. We still have an Apple app. Join us and fast, because if you don't, we will cease to exist. Check out the link in the description.
Trudeau actually went quite crazy with his military assistance to Ukraine. Remember, Canada is at the bottom end of NATO countries in terms of military spending and doesn't boast of a particularly vast military force. Yet it sent 4,500 M72 rocket launchers, 7,500 hand grenades and around 1,600 fragmentation vests, 100 GUSTAV M2 recoilless rifles along with 2,000 rounds of ammunition and $7 million worth of machine guns, sniper rifles, pistols and carbines along with 1.5 million rounds of ammunition. Apart from the generosity, the problem is that Canada doesn't really afford to spend so much on military equipment. Speaking at CBC's Power and Politics, Canada's Defence Minister Anita Anand explained that Trudeau government had exhausted its supplies of rocket launchers, anti-tank missiles, grenades, ammunition, sniper rifles, drone cameras and other military equipment sent to Ukraine. Anand admitted that sending more military equipment to Ukraine would leave Canadian armed forces under-equipped. So Canada will talk to other allies about securing more military assistance to Ukraine. Again, the Trudeau government's priority is not to correct the shortfall of critical military equipment in Canada, but only to ensure that Ukraine keeps getting a steady supply of military equipment just to keep in line with Biden's agenda. And remember, Canada has no business sending plane loads of military equipment to Ukraine. It is no guardian angel in Eastern Europe. Trudeau was only helping Biden and the US happy by transferring Canadian military equipment to Ukraine. But if Canada gets invaded tomorrow, will Biden help him? Of course not. In fact, Trudeau has been on a campaign to refund his country's armed forces. To be fair, Canada never spent heavily on its defense forces. It has a long history of pacifism, free of any major wars. Apart from participating in US-led multinational coalitions, Canada so far hasn't carried out any military operations. However, times are changing. The Arctic is melting and Russia is looking at militarization of the resource-rich region. Also, Canada is the second biggest country in the world and has 3 long coastlines to guard. Yet Trudeau is not spending even the sanctioned funds on Canadian armed forces. His government has already postponed $10 billion in military spending as a part of a 20-year-old program announced in 2017 to properly equip the Canadian armed forces. And if Trudeau does spend this money at some point of time in the future, the cost overruns and inflationary charges will mean that some of the planned military investments will have to be scrapped. Presently, Canada's military expenditure is way below NATO's suggested threshold of 2% of the GDP. Anita Anand said that she would advise the Trudeau government to hike it from the present 1.39%. However, the reality is that even if the 2017 defense program is executed, Canada's military spending would go up to only 1.5% of the country's GDP. Canada's military forces are currently facing a lack of everything, including warplanes, warships, and even military personnel. On top of it, Trudeau just snatched the weapons of Canadian soldiers and handed them to Ukraine.